Hi, everybody. Welcome to Dynamics Con. My name is Sanjay Srinivasan. I'm the Chief Architect at Vonage, and we're going to spend the next 30 minutes with you with my guest speaker, John Cooper from ARG. And the theme of the conversation today is the rapidly evolving world of the contact center, but really around the rapidly evolving world of the customer experience and how that customer experience and enhancing that customer experience is so critical to success in business today. A little bit about myself. So my name is, again, Sanjay. I've been with Vonage for about 12 years. I'm the chief architect, and I work closely with our product and sales teams on enhancing our product sets in the contact center and the unified communications as a service space. We have a special affinity to the Microsoft ecosystem that we're going to talk about today, and the general theme around how enhancing the customer experience, especially in the Microsoft ecosystem, is what we're going to spend time on. I'd like to welcome John Cooper. John is a senior solution specialist at ARG, and I'm going to let John introduce himself and tell a little bit about ARG and himself at the same time. Welcome, John. Over to you.
Thank you, Sanjay, and great to be here. As Sanjay mentioned, I'm John Cooper. I'm a senior solution specialist here with ARG in our unified communications practice area. I've been with ARG about 2.5 years, been in the unified communications space for about 17. So a lot of contact center and customer engagement and client experience, solution experience here. ARG, we are a large full service master agency and IT advisory firm. So we simply put, help clients evaluate, purchase, implement, and support technology solutions across a variety of different product sets and services. So pretty much anything cloud related, complex network security, unified communications, SD-WAN, we play in a lot of areas, but we help clients make thoughtful decisions as they're evaluating those technologies and solutions. So great to be here and really looking forward to having a discussion, Sanjay.
Awesome. Well, thank you, John. Quick question right there. In terms of your customer profiles, is there a certain set of verticals, customer profiles that you are seeing growth in terms of cloud enhancements and cloud growth?
It's a great question, and we do service the full market. So we have a lot of vertical expertise, based on proximity, because we sit in the Mid-Atlantic region, close to Washington, D.C. There's a lot of federal contractors and association and nonprofit, probably some of our largest vertical markets that we play in, but a lot of legal, healthcare, financial services, really, you name it. I would say the growth trajectory is probably very similar across those vertical markets, really distinct different use cases and ways they're looking to leverage cloud technology. But I'd say in terms of level of investment, traction in the marketplace, every organization is really turning to cloud more and more. And I think even coming through the pandemic, that's only propelled with the way we're working and communicating having changed so much.
That's true. That's so true. All right, let's then actually talk about that a little bit more, right? The world of the contact center has been there for eons. Obviously, it started on premises, but the complete movement to the cloud, the contact center in the cloud, commonly known as contact center as service, is a big deal. It's a big change that's going on in our ecosystem and in our world. John, what in your mind are the fundamental changes that you're seeing in the contact center itself, not necessarily from a tech or movement to the cloud, but maybe the cloud is enabling some new use cases, new modalities. Give me some examples of what, as you are in front of customers and enterprises, what are those changes you see?
It's a great question. And I think it really starts with, a recognition by organizations that the way that their consumers, clients, patients, donors, you name it, whoever you service, right, or serve, or you're marketing to or selling to, the way that their expectations, the way they communicate with you, and the way they get support and they get help, and they even the way they buy things has changed. The picking up the phone and calling an organization either to do business with them or to get support if I'm already a customer that's maybe the fourth or fifth option for most people nowadays. They simply don't want to talk to somebody if they don't have to. I think all the types of communication we become accustomed to in our personal lives, chat, social media, things like that, that's really more the way that consumers prefer to get information and have questions answered. And so in the contact center, they really are now truly no longer call centers, contact centers, because now they're incorporating all these different channels and different ways to communicate. And the other big advent is AI, right? And what AI has allowed organizations to do. I mean, with that, you're enabling a lot of self-service applications and use cases. So, your agents are the most expensive part of your contact center. They're highly trained, right? Save those agents for the really meaningful interactions that really warrant a live human interaction, right? Let the technology do the work for you on the stuff that's easy, looking up a balance, accessing a file or a form, a frequently asked question. I think we're seeing the advent of AI and even advanced stuff like conversational AI, making these bots and these automations a huge part of really thinning out those inbound correspondence and letting the agents, the things that get to the agents, really, what really needs to be there. Let the other stuff be quick, be easy, and that drives a much better client experience because guess what? You solved my problem much faster, and I didn't wait on hold to talk to somebody.
Exactly. Or didn't have to repeat the same thing over and over again when I moved from agent one to agent two. And I've seen kind of this, and certainly I think COVID, the onset of COVID, and when we were all in the throes of it, I guess we're back, potentially going back there. But regardless, the whole notion of having bots deflect commonly asked questions, and we saw that in our business as well. We had customers or services asking us to throw up an intelligent IVR, for example, where callers could call in and interact with a bot, which would lead them through a series of questions and answers and decide whether they needed to go for testing and then redirect them to a site for where they could sign up for testing. So natural language has become the new primary interface more and more, certainly in our personal lives with the Alexas and the Googles, and it's taken hold in the contact center space as well. And maybe I'll add in my kind of observation, an additional observation here on the change. And John, tell me if you agree with this or not. In the past, people, when we thought of call centers, as you said it, you almost thought of just the front office, just the agent and the supervisor, and that's it. The interaction with the customer or the caller pretty much happened with the agent supervisor and ended there. But with an increasingly tech-savvy audience, tech-savvy services, and more complex set of services being offered by just enterprises in general, I'm observing that the interaction that a caller has is spreading beyond the front office, meaning the agent or the supervisor, and is pulling in the knowledge worker or the back office as well. Right. So when the caller calls in, with the great importance of customer experience being so critical, it is important that the agent provide the answer right away. And often the agent may not have the answer right in front of him or her, and may have to collaborate in that interaction, during that interaction with a back office. And so now the back office worker also has become more or less an agent. And I think that blending of the front office and the back office is starting to be more common. You agree? You see any differently there?
No, 100% agree. I think when you think about client experience, it doesn't, the front end, the salesperson who, that's part of the cycle. The back end, once they're a customer, support, right? That's the back end of the cycle. There's a lot of stuff in between, right? In terms of client experience and that overall, customer life cycle management. And it really does touch all the different varying departments that might have a part to play in that life cycle management. Accounts payable, the training department. And there's several ways that, a client might need to interact with an organization. And if they have at any point have to start over, repeat themselves, that person that's supposed to be the resource best to help them doesn't have the information about what they need help about, that's a gap, right? Every interaction with a client is an opportunity, as organizations like to say. And if you think about it that way and you try to maximize that opportunity, and with a good client experience, I think that's what's going to pay dividends, like retention, growth. They're going to be more prone to buy more. They're going to remember that interaction and remember that every step of the way, there was a progression. I was getting to the right person. They knew what I was talking about. They knew what I needed. They were indeed the right resource to help me as well.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So let's kind of now, I'm going to tie it into the theme of the conference and a subject that is very important to us here at Vonage as well, is making it relevant towards the Microsoft ecosystem. And with the context of this conversation, there are two applications, I suppose I call them, but they're far beyond applications today anymore, is Microsoft Dynamics, the CRM system, and as well as Microsoft Teams, right? I think there's no debate anymore or at all on how widely deployed both these applications are and how critical they've become to many businesses as they run their front and back offices off of those systems. Some stats that I've recently read that it's almost 650,000 companies using a package that includes Microsoft Teams. Microsoft is doubling its subscriber base, its Teams subscriber base every 6 months. And I think the CEO Satya himself quoted that Microsoft Teams is on its way to becoming a digital platform as significant as the internet browser or a computer operating system. I'm quoting Satya here. And we see that as I engage with our opportunities and the customer base, the conversation goes to Microsoft Teams fairly quickly. And I think they last reported over 145 million daily active users. So, I mean, that's clearly a huge market and will continue to grow. Similarly, on the CRM side, as we think about the CRM ecosystem, there's obviously many leading vendors out there, and Microsoft is doing rather well there. The Microsoft Dynamics ecosystem tied with Teams together is doing well. At least from the research I've done, Microsoft Dynamics recorded almost 14% growth in the 2019-2020 timeframe based on stats that we've researched ourselves. So that's the ecosystem that is seeing hyper growth as enterprises get to the cloud, and they must base their services on CRM systems, as we all know, as well as the collaboration UCaaS platform being Microsoft Teams, and how other services integrate into those platforms is so critical. So, John, knowing that the theme is here around how the Microsoft ecosystem plays in this space, what does the blending of the agent and the back office really mean to you in terms of the interaction with the customer?
Yeah, I mean, when you think about it, and I mean, I've kind of long thought this. I mean, Office 365 might really be the only true unified communications ecosystem in the world, right? That offers all the elements outside of communication and collaboration. Of course, it does that, but it's got productivity. It's got your CRM application. It's got SharePoint, your repository for files and teaming, things like that. So you have all these blended elements, and we know Teams has kind of become that straw that stirs the drink in terms of the end user and the dominant application experience, right? And it's the gateway into all those other services. But when we think about the different parts of that ecosystem that can be leveraged by the different back office workers to the frontline worker to the contact center employee, and all living in that ecosystem with shared presence and availability and all those different things, and really broad access to all these cross-collaborative services, it just really helps unify all those different functions and that customer journey, that customer lifecycle we just talked about, making that a lot easier because I'm not using multiple technologies to enable that, right? I've really got everything in this single stack.
In one place.
Now, there might be some ancillary there might be some ancillary pieces we're going to talk about here that make that environment even better, and you need it to really be fine-tuned, right? But in terms of the bones, the core functionality and ability to optimize that experience across those different departments, it's easier than ever when you have a true ecosystem platform that can enable all those different workloads.
No, that's awesome. And I think that related to that is, of course, again, going back to the whole blending of the agent and the back office, I've seen some kind of how the world may be changing or how the user base may be rethinking as to who owns the pane of glass, right? When we think about historically the agent and the back office worker, the agent is probably in the CRM system, say like Microsoft Dynamics, and logged into Microsoft Dynamics and spends maximum amount of time there. Whereas the back office user, the knowledge worker, might be in the collaboration platform, in this case, Microsoft Teams, pretty much through their day. But I think with the blending of the front office and the back office, I think there's a debate, discussion going around as to who's going to continue to own that pane of glass. I've recent announcements from certainly from Microsoft as well as from other vendors. I'm starting to see that the pane of glass might be the collaboration platform with the objects from the CRM appearing in there. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, definitely it's interesting. I think when we used to talk about, unified communications to a customer, they really were thinking about voice and the way to bring mobile and desktop and those things together. And then that became, let's include collaboration in that. That should also include our audio and our video and our web conferencing tool. And now it's even deeper. Now it's team sites and external channels and all these other things that are being brought into that strategy. And now one of the primary questions we're asking the client is, what's your application strategy, your enterprise application strategy, right? They're going to have a lot of different SaaS tools that are in there. We've moved every workload to cloud now at this point. Voice might be the last thing to come for a lot of companies that might still be on premise, but when we're talking about aligning voice and a potential new cloud voice platform with your ICT strategy, it's a lot about the application stack, right? And what is that customer experience and or employee experience you're aiming to enable within those applications, right? It's all about integration. Obviously, when the Microsoft stack is the driver here, you've got a lot of inherent benefit there. There's still going to be ancillary pieces that need to plug in and be brought in, and the tighter those integrations are and the more native they can be in that application environment, the more seamless that experience is going to be.
No, that's wonderful. I think you're spot on. And I think that's where the CRM, while it may not be the pane of the glass or continues to be the pane of glass, it plays such a critical role in the ideal customer experience, right? That's where all the customer information is residing, like history of purchases, trouble tickets, past interactions. And about the best definition of customer experience would be to not have to ask the customer for history. It should all be available to the agent right there. And past behavior often dictates what the customer's current problem or request may be about. And so all of that being available in the CRM system itself, that's such rich information. And the good contact center, certainly at Vonage, we leverage all that rich information about the customer to make the right routing decisions, right? Maybe I can answer this question just based on history via a bot, or based on the nature of the call itself, I might pick the routing to the right agent, not just based on who the right agent is in terms of the agent's skill set, but based on the information that's in the CRM about that particular customer and their past interactions. John, I know we mentioned in the past, a little while ago, AI, right? Can you talk a little bit about how some of the AI technologies out there are being used in the contact center space, the specific use cases, perhaps?
For sure. AI and even BI, right? Because it used to be whoever has the most data wins. And now it's whoever does the most with that data wins, right? I mean, the CRM is the brains, right? It's the repository. You're capturing so much information there. CRM, ITMS system, whatever it might be, that's the brains, right? And the more you capture and the better you are with using that data to be predictive, right? To understand customer trends, to be in front of those trends before you are reacting to them, after you've missed an opportunity, right? The technology through AI and automation can do a lot of that stuff for you, right? It can be as simple as stuff like forecasting number of bodies for different, busy times and things like that to make sure you're your time to answer is low, your hold times are low, and you're hitting your KPIs, to more advanced stuff like a good use case is agent assist, right? We're seeing that all over the place. It's okay, now I've got that live interaction, I've got someone on the phone I need to help, right? But turnover is such a big problem in contact centers. It always has been, right? Staffing,
Right.
and training, and onboarding an agent is a very timely, costly endeavor. So how can you optimize and accelerate that onboarding and that ability to help those clients? Agent Assist is a perfect example. That's an AI tool that's going to access and search and index all the different systems that agent might have to leverage in order to help that customer or client out and provide that next best action, right? They ask this question, give them this knowledge base article. They're looking for this form, or here's that form right here, give them the link, right? So it's monitoring that conversation. It could be the verbal part, the audio, the chat if it's on chat. And based on what that client's asking, saying, sharing, it's providing that agent with what to do next to help that client, where they might be searching, scrambling on their own because they're new, right? Very efficient, make that interaction really valuable, make it quick, right? Get them in and out and with the answers they need. And one of many examples, but again, we're just seeing the AI and the automation layer that we can wrap around even that human interaction, or just let the technology handle it, just driving that client experience. And that is a new battleground, right? I mean, we are competing more than ever for that digital space, and the organizations that are getting that strategy right, getting that technology layer right, are winning, right? And they're growing even during times where organizations are struggling, right?
Absolutely. And, again, going back to the COVID example, COVID forced so many enterprises to move their agents from their normal locations to work from home, work remotely. And that added challenges to them in terms, because they may not have planned on that. And so when something extraordinary like that happens, technology like AI-based technologies that you just spoke about have been of great help in number one, deflecting, like you said, FAQ calls away from live agents, and let the live agents focus on the real calls, but also then assist the agents in manners that you talked about. That's just the new world of AI, and it's just there in our personal lives every day now. And each of us as consumers, I think, I can say that as we call into contact centers, we can see a quality improvement there in terms of the natural language understanding, the back and forth with the bot, how intelligent these bots are starting to get. So all pretty exciting. But let me ask you this, John, then. Is it all just software, cloud software, that is all that's needed to make this all work? Or there are other piece parts? I'm assuming, what role, for example, do you see providers like Vonage play in this whole ecosystem? What does Vonage bring to the table there?
It's a great question. And I've said it a few times along the way here. There's definitely ancillary pieces to make all this work and make it optimized. I mean, ARG, I mentioned what we do earlier. We take a really holistic approach and a look at a project like client experience, right? Your contact center solution, what it might be. There's multiple overlapping strategies there, but there's some foundational parts that have to be in place to make sure that all works right. Most of these services that are cloud-based or what they call over the top, they're going to use commodity broadband or your data network or whatever data network that user's connecting over. And now that's more varied than ever, right? Yeah. With work at home and all those things. So, looking at the network first and foremost, the readiness there. Do you have requisite bandwidth? Are you doing the things in your last mile in terms of QoS and VLANs and traffic shaping that you need to be doing? Are you deploying technologies like SD-WAN and dual circuit architecture to make sure you have redundancies there, right? So those are critical parts. And to Vonage, and I'll let you speak about this more even, but the role we see, enterprise leading innovation leaders and UC providers like Vonage play is that backbone, right? The transport, the transactional layer there. These technologies are great, but something has to get that client to the interaction. And really that's the role that the solutions like Vonage really play. We're seeing some overlap for sure between CRM and contact center in terms of some of those channels like chat and social, because they're supported in a few different places in your technology stack, and we're figuring out what that blend is, but rock solid reliability for those interactions is critical. And I think the network and the UC provider, those are the two foundational parts to make the software layer over the top really work and perform the way you want it to.
No, I agree. I mean, I think while we may think otherwise, I think voice is still the king, right? Majority of customer service still happens over a voice network, but clearly messaging platforms all the way from basic SMS, MMS, but social media, web chat also have become critical to the communications between a customer and an enterprise. And certainly quality is so critical, especially as you talk about natural language understanding being the main interface these days. Imagine where an AI bot is trying to understand what you might be saying and all the different accents that are out there over a network that's not quality or a service that's not quality. That would make that interpretation task that much harder. So yeah, no, you're exactly right. Certainly the application layer functionalities we already talked about, bolted on top of a rock solid network, rock solid service platform, is critical to the piece. John, in closing, let's just kind of get to your what excites you about the future in this space as you think about 2022 and beyond. Anything that comes to top of mind for you that excites you?
It's just exciting to have these conversations be a lot more strategic than they used to be, maybe. I mean, I think you still, even if you had a collaboration strategy, you had a voice strategy, you had a client experience strategy, it could be somewhat disconnected, right? Even though the technology has kind of been there for years to be able to enable those strategies to really converge. I think the demand is finally meeting the technology capability, right? And that's really what's exciting, is that recognition from business leaders that this is the way to do it. This is how we drive innovation, drive that experience, drive our growth, right? It's that side of it. It's also the other side, and I mentioned, a lot of our footprint, those association, those nonprofit customers. There's certain projects where you're really driving something and helping an organization that's mission focused, and it's exciting to see maybe non-traditional environments that didn't normally think about taking advantage of these collaborative ways to work, leveraging that more than ever to save money and put more money back into the mission. So I think, lots of cool ways to think about it, but I think that's the exciting part to me, is just the power this gives organizations, right? And helping them do it.
No, yeah, I completely agree. And I don't think I can add much more to that, but I think for me, the biggest excitement is just in 2-3 years ago, maybe as recent as even 2-3 years ago, conversations with customers about going to the cloud was still convincing them that that's the way to do. But that's not the case anymore. That movement is fast, it's furious, and now and customers are really becoming quite creative about, now that they know that the cloud can deliver higher quality, higher reliability. And then because all the compute and storage that's available now in the cloud versus in their own data center, clever stuff using AI-based technologies that need that compute, need that storage, all that is becoming real and in production. So it's exciting times ahead for sure. Well, thank you, John. Thank you for spending your 30 minutes with us. Hopefully, I really enjoyed the conversation, and hopefully the audience finds it enlightening as well. Thank you, and have a great rest of your day.
Thanks so much, Sanjay. Thanks, everyone.
Bye.